The Good Dinosaur. More like the okay dinosaur. Am I right? Huh? Huh? Alright, let's just do the review. The Good Dinosaur is a movie by Pixar that was started way back in the ancient times of 2009. It was scheduled to be released a lot sooner, but it was pushed back and there was production issues, and then they recasted people, and, well, you know, that means they just had more time to work on it, so it could come out good, right? Right? Alright, let's just start with what was good about this movie. I think it goes without saying this movie is gorgeous. It had some really great environments, very well rendered, very well detailed, very immersive. There was a very cool scene where there was fireflies flying around, and it was beautiful. This movie had a really good cast too. There was Frances McDermott, there was Jeffrey Wright, you had Sam Elliott voicing a T-Rex. What other movie can make that claim? I also really like the creativity in this movie because the main character's family were dinosaur farmers, and honestly, I don't think I've ever seen that before. That might be something new. Unless it was in one of those many Land Before Time sequels that I chose not to watch. What I find really interesting is that this movie played out like a frontier-style western. Like, Sam Elliott's character and his kids were cattle herders, but instead of cattle, they were like buffalo or wildebeest or some other prehistoric cow-like mammal. There was a scene where they were sitting at a campfire in the middle of nowhere and they were telling stories. And one neat little detail was when they were herding the cattle, they were galloping. They made the T-Rexes sort of run as if they were galloping on a horse. It's kind of hard to explain. You have to see it. It might look a little awkward at first, but I thought it was kind of a neat little detail. So yeah, this was a very interesting take on a story about dinosaurs. I should also mention the short that played before this movie, Sanjay's Super Team. It's about a young Indian boy who imagined Hindu gods as superheroes. And honestly, I really thought they could have expanded on that a lot more, and they probably could have made that into a movie. But instead, we got The Good Dinosaur. So now for the bad. First of all, when I first saw the trailers for this movie, I didn't think there was going to be a lot of dialogue in it. I thought it was going to be pretty much a silent film where, you know, character actions tell the story. And there were a lot of moments where there was very little to no dialogue because there were scenes where Arlo and Spot, the little human dog thing, had to try to get out of the wilderness, and they weren't speaking a lot, and they were very effective scenes. And then they started talking again. Unfortunately, this movie doesn't really do a lot of new things. If you've seen many other movies, you've seen stuff like this before. The main character is kind of a coward and he has to learn to be brave. Then there's like the fight against the wilderness, the fight to find himself, the fight to learn to forgive and, you know, own up to your own mistakes. And there's a lot of elements from other better movies, unfortunately, like Land Before Time, Lion King, even Ice Age, which is probably even better than this movie, I hate to say it. There were some pretty messed up moments in this movie too, like there's a scene where Arlo meets a group of pterodactyls and they act like they're, you know, like a rescue squad and they save people after a natural disaster or something. And there's a part where they save this little chipmunk, squirrel, prehistoric mammal thing, and it's adorable, and they're like, oh look, we found it. And then sure enough, he chomped on the thing, and it wasn't enough that he ate it. The other pterodactyls showed up and they started fighting over it, and they were like pulling it apart in their mouth. They didn't show a lot of gruesome stuff, but still, that was a really screwed up scene. Speaking of unwarranted death, someone does die in this movie. It's kind of the Disney thing for someone, a loved one, to be killed off. Disney, we need to talk. Okay, I know this is your thing to kill off parents and everything, and I get why you do it. I know it's part of the story. It gives the main character some sort of a drive. But can you make it a little less obvious? I mean, first you had Frozen, where the parents were killed off very unceremoniously, and then it happened again in Big Hero 6 when obviously we knew what was going to happen. And then in this movie, let me put it this way, people were laughing in the theater. I'm not kidding. I was sitting around people who were dying laughing after this character died. And they shouldn't be doing that. This should be a very sad, emotional moment, and people were laughing because it was so obvious. So, please, fix this. A lot of people were complaining about Arlo being kind of annoying, and yeah, I can definitely see where they're coming from because, like I said before, he's a coward and he's trying to learn to be brave, but you know, every little thing that happens causes him to scream, like a bug lands on his nose and he freaks out. And it didn't bother me, I think, as much as it did with most people, but if you are bothered by this, I think it's just a natural reaction you would have to, like, a real person who'd be like this. Like, if you saw someone freaking out over a bug, you'll be like, dude, what's wrong with you? It's just a bug. And finally, there were a lot of pointless scenes in this movie. Like, there's a scene where Arlo and Spot find this berry tree, and they start eating, and they have, like, a drug trip hallucination, and it only lasts for a few minutes, and then it goes away, and we never speak of it again. So, I don't know what the point of that was. There was also a character they ran into, this huge dinosaur who had, like, animals hanging onto his head, and he had a really cool introduction too. He just sort of morphed out of the forest, like he was hidden this whole time. He said he was watching them, and I thought he was gonna be some sort of like mystic shaman, you know, some sort of like wise man, and he just turned out to be this weird, crazy guy. I thought they were gonna do a lot with this character, but unfortunately he just sort of came and went, and we never saw him again. I think what hurts the most about this movie was that this was supposed to be Pixar's anniversary year, and it's one of the reasons why we had 2 Pixar movies. In fact, I think The Good Dinosaur was released on the same day as A Bug's Life was released. And the fact that they made this their anniversary movie kind of felt a little wrong. I think Inside Out deserves that recognition a lot more, but as far as The Good Dinosaur goes, it was okay. It wasn't great, it was okay. You could show it to your kids fine. However, if the Peanuts movie is still in theaters, I would say go see that instead, and maybe wait till this comes out on Blu-ray or Netflix or something, and then you can watch it. So that's all I got for The Good Dinosaur. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of it. My name is Rob, and you know what? As much as I didn't care for this movie that much, I'm at least glad that Pixar got out of its rut of unnecessary sequels. Son of a